Let's talk to God.
When the noise finally fades and even your own thoughts grow tired of speaking, there is a quiet place inside you where the breaking does not shout. It only leans slowly, like a wall that has carried too much for too long. And this is where you meet us, God. Not in the drama of collapse, but in the hush of endurance, where smiles still appear on the surface while the soul quietly splinters underneath, where strength has become a habit rather than a feeling. And the heart keeps going simply because stopping feels more frightening than continuing. You see the pauses we hide between breaths, the swallowed words, the prayers we did not finish because we were not sure how to name the ache. You see the hands that keep serving while trembling, the faith that still stands even when joy has gone silent. And in this unseen tension you draw near, not to fix us quickly, but to sit with us faithfully, to let your presence be heavier than the weight we carry. So if it feels safe right now, let your heart slow down for a moment and remain here with you, because even at this silent breaking point, you have not stepped away. There are days when nothing dramatic happens on the outside, yet something inside you bends just a little more, as if the soul were made of glass warmed too long by hidden fires. And you, God, know this kind of pain because it does not announce itself. It lives between responsibilities, behind kindness. Beneath the sentence, "I'm fine," spoken one time too many, you see how weariness becomes quiet, how hope learns to whisper so it won't disturb the balance holding everything together. You notice how faith keeps walking even when it no longer knows where the strength comes from, how trust becomes muscle memory rather than emotion. And in this fragile perseverance, you do not demand explanations or performance. You simply remain, steady as breath, close as heartbeat, reminding us that breaking does not mean failing and silence does not mean absence. And if you can, allow yourself to stop trying to hold it all together right now and gently lean into His nearness, because He is already here, listening to everything you have not been able to say. Sometimes the breaking point does not arrive with tears or collapse. It arrives as numbness, as the strange calm that settles when the heart has spent all its words and no longer knows how to ask for help. And you, God, recognize this silence as a language of survival. You know how the soul retreats inward when pain has lasted longer than explanations, when answers feel distant and endurance becomes the only prayer left standing. You see the moments when joy feels inappropriate, when laughter feels heavy, when even hope feels like a responsibility rather than a refuge, and still you do not rush us. You do not accuse us of weakness. You simply hold space for us to exist as we are, tired but faithful, hollow yet breathing. And in this quiet endurance you whisper without sound that we are allowed to rest inside your presence without fixing anything first. So if your spirit feels blank or heavy right now, let yourself stay here without pretending. Because even this silence is being heard, and even this stillness is being gently held. There is a kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot reach, a tiredness woven into memory and responsibility. And you, God, know how it forms slowly through days of holding on, days of being strong because others depend on it, days of choosing patience when frustration has nowhere safe to land. You see how the heart learns to fold its pain neatly so life can continue uninterrupted, how wounds are postponed, how tears are scheduled for later and later until they forget how to fall, and yet you remain attentive to every quiet signal, every shallow breath, every moment when courage feels borrowed rather than owned. You do not mistake our endurance for ease or our silence for peace. And in this gentle understanding you invite us not to explain ourselves, but to soften just a little in your presence. So if you feel like you have been carrying more than anyone realizes, allow yourself to loosen your grip here, because you are strong enough to hold what we have been afraid to set down. There comes a moment when even prayer feels heavy, when words about faith sound true for others but distant from your own chest. And you, God, do not turn away from us in that moment. You lean closer, knowing that belief does not disappear when it grows quiet. It simply waits for air. You see how the heart keeps choosing you, even without comfort. How trust survives on memory when feeling has gone missing. How love for you remains present even when clarity does not. And this is not hypocrisy or failure. It is devotion under strain, a soul continuing without applause or reassurance. And you honor this kind of faith deeply, because it costs more than celebration ever could. So if praying feels difficult right now, let yourself rest in His presence without forming perfect sentences, because even your unfinished thoughts are understood, and even your quiet endurance is precious in His sight. Even when nothing visibly breaks, there is a quiet fracture that runs through the inner life, a fine line formed by expectations unmet, by prayers delayed, by strength stretched thinner than it was meant to go, and you, God, trace that line with tenderness rather than judgment. You remember every moment we told ourselves it would pass soon, every time we chose patience while our hearts quietly asked how much longer. You see how endurance reshapes us, how it teaches the soul to breathe shallow so it won't feel too much, how resilience becomes routine while vulnerability waits in the shadows. And still, you stay close, not demanding that we fall apart in order to be held, but offering yourself as a place where we do not have to explain our survival. So if there is a hidden crack inside you that no one else knows about, allow it to exist here without fear, because you are present not only at the loud breaking points, but also at the silent ones where grace works unseen. There are moments when the soul feels like it is standing at the edge of itself, not falling, not moving forward, just holding still because any step feels like too much. And you, God, understand this suspended place where courage pauses and fear waits quietly nearby. You see how we keep functioning while something inside asks for relief without knowing how to ask. How faith becomes a thin but steady thread stretched across days that look ordinary but feel endlessly heavy. You notice the way we distract ourselves to survive, the way we keep schedules full so silence will not ask questions we are not ready to answer, and yet you do not pressure us to resolve what hurts. You simply offer your nearness as permission to remain unfinished, to breathe without conclusions, to exist without solutions. So if you find yourself hovering between strength and surrender right now, let your heart stay here a little longer, because even in this in-between space, you are not alone and you are not unseen. Sometimes the breaking point hides inside routine, folded neatly between obligations and smiles, disguised as normal days that require more strength than they should. And you, God, recognize how quietly this kind of strain settles into the body and spirit, how it teaches us to move carefully, to ration emotion, to keep going without asking whether we are still okay. You see the discipline it takes to show up when motivation has thinned, the courage it takes to remain kind when tenderness feels spent, the faith it takes to keep trusting when answers remain delayed. And in this unseen perseverance you draw closer, not asking us to be brighter or braver, but inviting us to rest without explanation. So if your heart feels worn by consistency rather than crisis, allow yourself to pause here and breathe with Him, because even this quiet endurance is known, and even this hidden weight is being gently carried. There is a subtle grief that forms when you realize how long you have been strong, how many seasons passed without relief, how often you told yourself just a little more, and you, God, have counted every one of those moments with a care deeper than our awareness. You know how strength can slowly become isolation, how being dependable can quietly erase the space to be held, how resilience can begin to feel like a sentence rather than a gift. And still, you never confuse our capability with our capacity. You never assume we need less tenderness because we have survived more. Instead, you offer a gentler kind of closeness, one that does not ask us to collapse to be worthy of comfort. So if you have been carrying your pain responsibly, privately, without complaint, allow yourself to set it down here without apology, because you are not impressed by our endurance. You are moved by our humanity, and you are here to meet it. There are nights when the body finally rests, but the mind keeps watch, replaying moments, conversations, decisions, as if vigilance itself were a form of protection. And you, God, see how this quiet alertness is born from love and responsibility, not from a lack of faith.
You know how the heart tries to prevent future pain by revisiting old ones, how it scans the past and future because the present feels too fragile to trust. And still, you do not scold this guarded soul. You approach it slowly, patiently, like light entering a dim room without forcing the eyes to adjust too fast, reminding us that safety is not something we must earn through exhaustion. And if your thoughts have been heavy companions lately, circling without rest,
let yourself offer them to him one by one, because you do not have to stand watch tonight. He is already awake, already near, already holding what you fear might fall apart. There is a quiet loneliness that comes from being surrounded yet unseen, from being needed yet not truly known. And you, God, understand how this kind of solitude settles deep inside the chest, where it does not ask for attention, but quietly reshapes the way we relate to the world. You see how we learn to be strong companions to others while becoming strangers to our own needs, how we listen carefully while hoping someone might notice our silence, how we keep giving because stopping would raise questions we are too tired to answer. And still you meet us there without disappointment, offering companionship without demand, presence without pressure, love without conditions. So if your heart feels isolated even in familiar places, allow yourself to rest here for a moment and let him see you fully. Because even when no one else perceives the weight you carry, you are deeply known and gently accompanied. At times, the breaking point arrives not as despair, but as a quiet question that lingers beneath everything you do, wondering how long the heart can keep giving without being replenished. And you, God, hear that question even when it is never spoken aloud. You notice how we measure our days by usefulness, how rest feels undeserved, how slowing down feels like letting someone else down. And you see how this inner pressure slowly tightens, not violently but persistently, until even small tasks feel heavy. And still you do not add demands to our fatigue. You gently remind us that worth was never meant to be proven through depletion, that love was never meant to be earned through exhaustion. And in this quiet reminder, you draw close, steady, and unhurried. So if you sense that question echoing softly inside you right now, let yourself bring it into his presence without answering it, because he is not asking more of you. He is offering himself to you exactly where you are. There is a fragile place where hope still exists but feels thin, like light filtered through heavy clouds. And you, God, recognize how delicate this hope can become after long seasons of waiting. You see how the heart learns to believe quietly so it will not be disappointed loudly, how expectations shrink not from unbelief but from self-protection, how faith becomes careful instead of bold. And still, you honor this cautious trust. You do not shame it or rush it. You nurture it patiently, breathing warmth into what feels faint, reminding us that even restrained hope is still hope, still alive, still reaching. And in this gentle care, you invite us not to force optimism, but to remain open to your presence as it is. So if your hope feels small or guarded right now, let it rest here without pressure to grow, because even the quietest hope is enough when it is held in your hands. Sometimes the heart grows tired not from pain itself, but from the constant readiness for it, from staying braced even during calm moments. And you, God, see how this vigilance quietly shapes the soul, how it teaches us to expect strain even in peace, to scan joy for its ending before fully entering it. You notice how we remain half-guarded, half-present, loving carefully so it will not cost too much if loss returns. And still you do not rush us into fearless living. You meet us exactly where we are, honoring the wisdom born from survival, while slowly offering a different rhythm, one where safety does not depend on control, And if you sense that guarded posture inside you right now, allow yourself to soften just a little in His presence, because you do not need to stay braced here. This is a place where your heart can lower its shoulders without danger. There is a quiet fear that grows when strength has been required for so long that you begin to wonder who you would be without it. And you, God, see how this question hums beneath our courage, shaping choices, pacing emotions, deciding how much truth we allow ourselves to feel. You know how we become careful with vulnerability because we are not sure who would carry it if we finally set it down. How we learn to survive by staying composed, measured, contained, and still. You do not rush us into exposure or demand sudden surrender. You remain steady, patient, proving through presence that letting go does not mean falling apart. It means being met. So if there is a quiet fear inside you about what might surface if you stopped holding everything together, let yourself stay here with Him for a moment, because nothing that rises in His presence is too much for His care, and nothing you release here will be lost. There comes a gentle fatigue when even resilience feels heavy, when the very thing that carried you begins to ask for rest. And you, God, recognize this moment with deep compassion. You see how the soul can grow weary of being brave, how perseverance can quietly long for permission to pause, how the heart can love deeply and still ache for relief. And you do not mistake this weariness for weakness or retreat. You understand it as honesty finally surfacing, a signal that something sacred needs tending. And in this understanding, you draw close without urgency, offering rest that does not require explanation, presence that does not ask for progress. So if you feel tired of being strong right now, allow yourself to admit it here without guilt, because you are not asking you to endure alone. You are offering yourself as the strength that remains when ours has grown thin. There is a moment when the heart realizes it has been surviving on borrowed strength, drawing from reserves it never meant to empty. And you, God, are not surprised by this discovery. You have watched every quiet sacrifice, every unseen choice to keep going for the sake of others, every time the soul whispered not yet and stood up again. And you see how this steady giving slowly thins the inner life, how joy becomes careful, how rest feels unfamiliar, how even gratitude can feel tired. And still you remain gentle, never accusing us of giving too much, only inviting us to receive again, to remember that love was designed to flow both ways. So if you sense that you have been living from what remains rather than from what is renewed, let yourself stay here and breathe, because in your presence, God, what has been depleted is not condemned. It is quietly restored. There is a quiet ache that comes when you realize how rarely you have been asked how you truly are, not because people do not care, but because you have learned to appear capable, steady, fine, and you, God, understand how this invisibility forms not from neglect alone, but from our own practiced composure. You see how we answer quickly to avoid concern, how we minimize our needs to keep the peace, how we become easy to rely on and hard to read. And still, you never overlook us. You never confuse silence with wholeness. You look directly at the places no one else thinks to ask about, and in that attentive gaze, you offer a kind of seeing that does not interrogate or expose, but gently affirms. So if there is a part of you that feels overlooked or quietly alone right now, allow yourself to be fully seen here without explanation, because in your presence, God, nothing about you is unnoticed, and nothing you carry is too small to matter. There is a slow surrender that happens when the heart finally admits it cannot keep sustaining itself on intention alone, when resolve grows tired and effort loses its sharp edge. And you, God, meet us tenderly at this realization, not as a failure, but as an opening. You see how long we tried to be enough, how often we substituted willpower for rest, how we carried faith like a task rather than a shelter. And still, you do not remove your hand when our grip weakens. You move closer, steadying what trembles, reminding us that dependence is not collapse, it is return. And in this gentle nearness, you invite us to stop proving and start receiving. So if you feel yourself softening right now, not breaking but yielding, allow it to happen without fear. Because this quiet letting go is not the end of strength. It is the place where your strength begins to carry what ours no longer can. There is a sacred stillness that arrives when the soul stops arguing with its limits and simply rests in what is true. And you, God, are present in that stillness with a gentleness that does not rush the process. You see how acceptance can feel like both relief and grief. Relief because the pretending softens. Grief because it means admitting how much has been carried alone. And still, you do not leave us there unattended. You sit with us in the honesty of that moment, allowing the heart to breathe without strategies or defenses, reminding us that we were never meant to be self-sustaining. And if you sense this quiet stillness settling inside you now, let yourself remain here without trying to define it. Because even in this pause, even in this wordless moment, you are being held by a presence that does not require you to be anything more than you are. There is a tender awareness that forms when the heart realizes it has reached its quiet edge, not a place of collapse, but a threshold where something must change. And you, God, recognize this moment with deep care. You know how close this edge can feel, how fragile the balance becomes when strength has been stretched to its limit, how easily tears rise without warning, how easily the soul longs for assurance without knowing what kind. And still, you do not let us stand there alone. You step closer, steadying the ground beneath our inner life, reminding us that reaching the edge does not mean we have gone too far. It means we have come far enough to be met. So if you feel yourself standing at that silent breaking point right now, allow yourself to remain here without retreat or fear, because you are not waiting for us to fall. You are here to hold us exactly where we are. When the soul reaches this quiet breaking point, there is often a fear that nothing new can enter, that all the space has already been filled with endurance, memory, and unanswered prayers. And yet you, God, move gently into that very place, not to overwhelm but to renew. You remind us that even silent hearts can receive, even tired faith can be restored, even worn strength can be met by grace that does not demand explanation. And in this moment, you invite us into a softer trust, one that rests instead of strives, one that receives instead of proves. So if you feel able, let your heart open just enough to receive what you are offering now, because this is where your blessing settles, not loudly but deeply, breathing peace into what has been strained, light into what has felt dim, and hope into what has been quietly waiting. And may your presence surround this soul with rest, steady this heart with peace, and carry this life forward with gentle assurance, reminding them that they are held, they are seen, and they are never alone.
Breathe for a moment. God is here. He wants to hear you. If this touched your heart, subscribe for more.